Okay, I think I'm online. So I don't know how long I'll do this, but I want to give at least an. Last time we left this, we were trying to do the menu reopening and closing this. And this is where I was trying to do the selection of the child items to do the explanation. It's kind of this is still going to break because we were in the middle of changing it and left it for the. This works beautifully. So we can open individual items. So those individuals and one an item is open, clicking another item will close the other. This works just fine. Clicking particular item, let's clean some stuff up. So far, okay. This tree, this is fine. This is not working at all because it's never. Okay. Tree cell selected is where we are doing opening and closing logic. Let's put a basic comment here. We want to close everything but the clicked section. Here, what we only control clicked. That's that. This is no longer used. I can't remember their name. It's either most likely Nigel, I think. He made the comment that this should probably be in a separate place because he was talking about not data with the. I could find his. Oh, it was the codec from Twitch stream. Yeah, mixing data with state will bite me. Or she's right. Um, yeah, this will definitely go away. We'll see. Maybe we could do or today. Look, it's 5:10. Maybe we'll do one on stream. So let's do this tree item select. So we can do this expand part. Basic data. So this detailed part is happening one click and I see on tree item select. So this works to a certain extent. Column title pressed is different. This is no longer working. We just got rid of the event handler here. Cell selected is this. Item selected. Item active. Let's look at it when an item's label is double click. We don't need a. This is something we hope to. But I think this kind of doesn't work because we are deselecting stuff. I want to give this another try. think this is probably just removed, but this is as if it should work. And the selected, it fires twice. So when I click the group title, this is triggered once. Once I click the leaf item, the most inner is fired. To do this, we get select. This is where our troubles will. The item 14 here it's only why are they get select. When we do get selected, the three item stuff. Get match. Look at that data. Column number. What would the date? Now this get parent might is selected. I bet this is going to give us false, suspecting this is fired. This is already done. What was it? Is select. Let's clear the. It's always the column number. Selected. It's going to be false because this is firing up. There. Seeing this way. First, so this is always firing, so we're already selecting. So this is what we can do. I should could make a function call here. I don't want. But then if I'm going to handle some stuff here, then I don't need. Is there a Boolean value? Say, okay, okay, so I don't think this is needed because when this fires, this takes care of the main title and the children title. In both cases, it is doing something. Let's actually get rid of this guy. Okay. When we do the normal business here, oh, but yeah, no, either way, it's not going to do this. Run, and it's going to find first, another I'm first clicking children that is firing twice. I don't know why. Why would you fire? But either way, what we can do here is some kind of whether this selected item has children or not. Say if this has children, is null. That means it's the most bottom. This should trigger the experiment. Say explain yourself. I'm gonna make the font size bigger for the audience who, because I forget that driving hard. Else, else. This is where we do exp, and maybe we actually put all this under exp. Are complaining. Oh, it's not exactly data type check. It's actually file expand collapse. This is fine. Also expand red robin planes. Okay, so now we definitely know why it's firing to. It's actually not. It wasn't firing to. It was, well, it was firing the same. It was firing this twice, but now we have a different reason coming here. So looking at child item, it first says explain yourself. And then it's going to do something. And I bet when we do this selection, I think it is still firing this. Sounds stupid, but I think this is just a name, kind of a misnomer. That is including both the selection and selection have interaction with that set. Emitted when a cell is selected. When a cell is deselected. There's this thing. selected when an item is. And yeah, and we just kept looking at this, right? The name sounds so good, signal, and yet when you click the main title to expand stuff, this wasn't firing. That's why we went ahead with the style select. We tried to differentiate child clicks and title clicks. So I think what we will do is the else case anyway. So if that is happening, then this is not going to fire twice, because when this kicks in and this comes here, then, well, let's see. Data expand individually, everything will clear the stuff. So clean yourself. Good. Just one. Go back to the. This is how you separate it. That way, nothing is fired twice. Here in the explain yourself, we will actually call the right piece of information. This is now a good point to create a function to separate things. Say it should be its own function. Whatever detail is pulled from the data file, go into it. So when a tree cell is selected, here what are we trying to do? We are doing collapse. And expand. So this root is never. I may actually first write this, see if they both have common points. Maybe argument integration, or I'll be storing some central, like some values in a central variable that both functions seek. So when we want to explain ourselves, essentially what we are trying to do is a call for the detail of this variant. Now we enter the data structure domain. So we'll keep the data separately in a data file for sure, but how do you structure that data? Give the description of this variant, say super Italian paste, be part of this tomato data. I think it should. Looking at our dummy interface, I think it should, because there is nothing here that is dynamic. We will have the price information in a separate data structure. Price will be determined by the manufacturer, maybe time of the year, how rare this seed is, that kind of. So those calculations will be done separately. But in terms of data point and reference, this is super Italian paste belongs to this title, which belongs to tomato, and that belongs to. So we will actually data there, same structure. So I think what I will do, create a JSON file. I believe I have VS Code. Let's see. data. Hmm. I will most likely keep this data in a Google spreadsheet, but that again might be a different day's topic. Let's keep moving. Um, Italian paste. It has a description data, maturity. So that's three pieces of information already turned. It's going. This is the next one. It's good. Should column. Column. Maturity could be an array of two values. Put the dates after seeds. Let's keep it seeds for like the number of seeds per. Save. 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 I think I'll add urban farmer for to the start. Then to into quick access. Save. Work for data for called it planting. Let's call it planting. I'm gonna double check file naming. I think this is a valid file or oh no, it was valid. I didn't save it yet. And when it's missing, it's going to show blank stuff. Will so this is no longer valid. Read the data somewhere. I have it somewhere. The project may grow really big. We will maybe separate data loading on filter. Let's call it load data for now. we have. Whoa. We actually have a. We'll probably have more. So this actually. That is actually returning an error. It's not. I'm actually kind of writing two functions in my load from path. We may simplify this part if it's all coming from. Yeah, let's do that because it's always going to be. Here's the name. 19. So I don't think we'll actually read any file other than JSON. Let's keep it. We could add the JSON while we are reading to the path. Let's keep it. Var for file in. What are you trying to load from? Systems path. To the error code. If there's an error, here you pick out. If there is no, I'll get as text. Text. You have to wrap this. So which returns parts result. String. It takes string which is all text. JSON object. So now we have to assign this somewhere. What I would like to do. So in the game, in the memory for the game, we will have data as a singleton. The game files should access the data something. Say planting, tomato, whatever the tomato is. So to do this, we actually store it in a key data dictionary. Do I actually have data? You know what? This is no longer YouTube. Because utility thing is constantly optimized. Could actually keep these generic things here and then create a data that singleton may false here. Because pluralize is something that other systems use, not system. In this case, this may be used by multi as well, most likely only by data. But that way, I'm actually, if I put the data stuff here, then I'm overloading the use of utils. So then it becomes kind of data util. We have other utils here too. Okay, so let's create a data script. And I think it also makes much more sense to something. Do I have anything in the clipboard? Let's actually paste. Did I delete this? It's going. So what we will do is let's also save this single. So now I think this can also going to. Okay, so now when you read the file, the code will be parsed and the JSON result will be returned. Otherwise, so now this function is only responsible for loading and returning the data, but this guy is going to load the data. Here, the path is this. Fills load. But it's a singleton. Should list me. Why are you? Because you recognize pluralize, but load it. Why not? Because I think I was running it and gave an error. So yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, because the execute it's still executing, and when I saved it, it actually called it here. Analyze is okay. Upload data. Load. Yeah, I'm not running it. It's not base condition. Close the file. Save. Again. Details. This is irritating. Able to see this. Small mistakes. The path. Now this actually has to be put in structure. So we will have equipment. Maybe other cases. What we can do for now is um, when I make this game for PC, should I even care for case sensitivity? Here's my thing. I should actually do it this way. It's JSON. So whatever this JSON structure is coming back from the load crap, I would like to do. I have. Oh, actually, finding my. I was going to create a data. Well, let's call it game data. Empty. Oh, this is what I was thinking. Game data going to be so that it's going to be game data dot planting dot whatever is injected here is vegetable. Game data path equals. Let's actually see if and we have identifier now. What you said? Oh, without underscore. Why are you suggesting? So when the game is running now, let's go to the remote. So here's the data built-in. So kind of doesn't matter, but when we go in the This is, let me run this. I'm expecting to see some. Oh, inspector specific data. Um, Singleton will now have a game data, uh, which should have a planting. This itself is a parse result. The only thing I don't like about this whole structure, let's go into planting when the game is ready, or after we initialize the tree. Right now, be able to access data, game data. This should actually be some. I'm actually expecting this to. So how did I use the wrong parses a JSON with example of dictionary? We print, give the JSON, and put that string. That parse result. Oh, that parse result has a result property, which then turns it in. That's what I. This this is what I. Now instead of doing the print, which actually gives the correct output we expect, we game data, data game data, planting of size 3. Have all these multiple. Oh, this is actually that bug. I tend to double click some. There's something with the refresh rate lapses. Works, but one level down. Again, data. Yeah, it even did that there for. Okay, anyway, we know what we are looking at. I think that also should be. Well, I didn't put a breakpoint. Can't really see stuff. It's also. I think my main beef with the structure so far is this. This just looks ugly as fuck. Data game data. Why can't game data dot planting? I mean, we could. do something stupid as creating a empty single game data. That instead of putting stuff into game data variable inside data, data is actually accessing the game data single. So we know we don't have it silly like data.get to do that. Another way of doing this is I think this is entering the territory of global variables in script. Would it be possible to do something self dot path instead of doing game data dot path? We're actually doing self path makes the planting dictionary object part of self, which is the data single. The exact same. Of course, when you do this, it's better because this here game data you could this and then planting. Yes, but we actually have a different say. Invalid said index planting because what is planting? So see, when planting is a string, you actually type it this way. If the planting key doesn't exist in dictionary, it creates it here. You're trying to access planting doesn't exist. Now bird. I think this is a whole other. You know, we are assigning a property value to a property after the cube, but this is about the as a new value to property. It's about the know. I think that is as silly as it sounded in the first place. I think that's what create a new game data singleton, some scripts. Now, with this standard dictionary, okay, keep it note. Instead of having an dictionary data, we are still trying to do something except, except when we are trying to do this, but stuff. If we can't access the planting text or the variable itself, that property, that variable doesn't exist in this file. When we do it this way, this doesn't quite exist. This only worked when game data itself was a dictionary. Right now, it's just a node, it's just a script file. I don't think I have to find a way to turn this into a dictionary. So then I can see properties. This will actually, and let's actually make sure because I'm making a silly hole here in the yeah, can't index on a value. It knows what the value of path is, planting. Will actually output it. Where did it crash? Okay, planting, that's fine. I was expecting to see this. Failed here. I guess it just skipped a frame before it could output this. Yeah, this is the problem. So when you do it this way, I'm going to say can't index on a value of type null. Now, this might be a silly exercise. Kind of know what our dictionary are supposed to. It would be nice to keep them as abstract as possible. So say like, I need to read planting JSON file. I'm reading it. So why can't I have planting as the key for accessing the loaded data? Let's see. Why can't I send dictionary? I should be able to. When you don't have any. And it was also bitching about this stance syntax, expected strict constant or identifier parent. This is a class. something I'll have to look up. Godot stand for GD script. Inheritance and dictionary. It may not be possible, so that would suck. I can't answer question number one. Question number one is I don't think the script. Now I understand when people say don't use inheritance, but instead opt for composition. I get that. That's kind of what we were doing with data.game data, but it kind of seemed redundant. Hence, standing diction. Just a generic dictionary tutorial stuff. Can you extend an array? Cannot. You, I don't think you could extend basic data type. I mean, extending string doesn't make. I get that. Dictionary is. I think you could do this with C sharp, definitely. I remember doing it with lists, so that a class would act like a list and benefit from all those methods. I could create a class here, mind you, which would actually have methods to take stuff and assign something internally, but that's just uh, yep, Nigel is saying yes, you can do it C sharp. Now, should I actually go C sharp way for this particular game data file? That's something I haven't done actually. Trying both with two different script types. And my Godot build right now is only GD script. It's not going to let. Yeah, I need to install a different build. To do what to do. So you are not sure about Godot. I mean, as far as I know, I'm guessing what you're not sure about But in Godot, like in Unity, you could use multiple scripts in the same project. That is something that I think is, but I think at this point, for me to do that, I need to get rid of my current Godot instance and instead use the C# build, this mono version. I'm using the standard version, which doesn't come shipped with C#. And would I ever need C# anywhere else in this project? I might. Okay, this is gonna be maybe done this way. For as sad as it sounds, it's about making progress. If we get the proper amount of attention and funding in May, hopefully, when we have more time, then we will worry ourselves with fine-tuning and such. Right now, it is going to just load the crap. Let's also do this load data. Let's not be more aggressive than it's supposed to. Game. It's fine. Got rid of all the jobs. This is now this should actually be game data. This should actually give us something. It does. Now we have to output the relevant information here on the right hand side. When we click which one was Super Italian page. So let's start with the UI. So these icons are 95 pixels. This area is 260. This one is 260. The whole thing is 2. The whole size is without this part. I believe that was 700. 710. Let's make 710. Said what? 80. $95. Icons will come in there. That's fine. This V-Box content. You can actually do it this way. Size flags. Not this one. No, I have to do the individual size flag. Expand as much as possible. There you go. So this is our tree. That's kind of taken care of. Explanation part. This is going to be expanding. Good. It will have label, maybe H box here, another H box here, and then maybe all together, all this is V box. Let's do it that way. Explanation itself could be VBucks content. Why not? And then we will have, well, this label will be title. This is going to be the description. Description, maturity. Um, because there's this bold part, just want to separate it. I could go with rich text and the first text part bold. Yeah, let's do that. I rarely use it. We will have another. This one is the maturity. This one is the seeds. And I believe all this area. So the title is the key itself. I don't keep the title separate. Key value. So that's that. Description is here. This is. I think this is just gonna fill itself out. So now what we should do is let's try again. Um, explain yourself. Okay, this is where we were doing the. So instead of explaining ourselves, this is where we are going to get the title. Tell, get title. Why not? Get text. Column is 0. This should give us the proper text. Thing 2 or not. Why not? While again. Something is also not looking quite right with the height of this. The buttons are all vertically aligned now. It's also good, but this is quite correct. Okay, so this explain your. Oh, okay, so I'm not printing it out. Explains thing 1. So that's okay. Now we do the data lookup. So right now we know that the data is in game data, which is then implanting. And this is where we have to access this thing. This is actually a variant. Let's store this here because I think I might variant. So now I have access to all this. This is essentially variant data. So for the explanation parts, title will have the variant itself, which is the clicked item. We will have description text coming from variant data. Let's duplicate this. There's the maturity. Now this maturity is the rich text label. When we do this, it's going to access. think to format the bold part, we do it this way. Pretty. Here's the bold part. Do this, then we gotta put the day number 1 and 2 and dash in between. So we will have something like, we will have date. This is going to, I think this is an array. It's going to decompose the chunks in this area. This is gonna make, let's run this and let's at least see. Get in super Italian paste on base dictionary. Well, at least it actually got something. Super Italian paste is recognized. What is variant data? It's this object should have been a dictionary. So super Italian paste is a string. The text piece data game data plan. It's access data game data planting. Oh, I actually need to access tomato first. So when I get the text, I should also get its parents' title too. So what is the type of this item? It's actually cell, get parent, get text, 0. So that is the type. In planting, we will have the type of plant and the variant of this should do. So scroll. Of course, everything is now off screen. Let's, so description, auto wrap, true. Title should never be that long, but just to be on the safe side, wrap. Let's see. This area, why is this? It's big here. I should also fix something with the UI that is interfering with the, oh, okay, it's fixed. Something was covering these speed buttons. Could speed things up. There's this calendar module. Fast forwards the game. Let's make it. Okay, that's fine. It's just still too short. Why is it too? It kind of edit from. It's as if I custom edited here. I did. I don't recall that. And when you go into your own area, this probably doesn't have. When you do this, it will actually force the component outside. It's actually okay, but positioning. By default, this is supposed to be bottom left. So now it's gonna try to grow. It's supposed to. Okay, wrong here too, bottom left. There you go. It. So now when we click this area, we have the thingy, but where is the maturity? Maturity. Oh, that actually doesn't have it. Unlike the label, for some reason this doesn't um, occupy space once the text is filled. That's weird. When you do this, I don't think it'll make any difference. Let's look at the design. Can we actually compromise? Okay. Let's arbitrarily say it takes 30 pixels, 40 pixels height. Save here. Here's the maturity. It's actually filled. And oh, instead of assigning it to the B text, I should have assigned it to the BB code. And maybe actually not doing this will have the same effect. Sorry, we'll have the effect that we are seeking. Instead of text, I think this is the BB code. Nope, we still need some kind of height input. We could actually do that with the size flag. It actually expands. So it takes as much space as there is available. This is still pissing me off. Am I applying the BB code wrong? Was there an example here? Page not for BB code. Color blue. Okay, bold. B makes text. Oh, I guess I forgot the curly braces. But then I thought the curly braces is just indicating that anything. I'm gonna use BB. No, curly braces will just another string. Bold square brackets slash. Enabled is not on. I have to still using the other curly braces filed version. And it is most likely showing it bold, except that there is no font input, custom font. But I'm confident it's actually doing it correctly. I just need to assign the proper font here. And I believe it was actually, I've done it before, but let's do this. One number data is going to Would be nice to put a key here, gram. Here it seeds per gram. Seeds code going to get affected because there's no data. Let's recompile. I was being oh, this is also going to take as much space like that, and this should also be in like that. Now we can start making things look a little bit pretty to a certain extent because we need that in inventory or not indicator, and we need a button here. Then these two items will probably shrink their height. They're not going to be able to take that much space. There will be less space. But there's another potential problem there. If this text here is longer or shorter, it will also affect these two items. We should account for that too. But we got the basics done. Just so it actually starts to look a bit more like this, maybe I'll put the white in the background so that it doesn't look too gray. I could do that maybe. Then the text has to be black. Let's see. And as usual, it's one thing to plan something, and it's completely another thing whether you do that or not. Today's plan was to place a 3D object with its preview in the game area. Let's actually see the game. I think I just happened to. So clicking one of these items and having a preview in the. But of course, in order to have the preview, we should be able to select an item. We are kind of doing that because now I'll pretend that this buy button is actually going to, let's say that buy button is going to let you do the placement here. Of course, normally that buy button will open another interface where you could select the supplier, but we'll just pretend that you already have. Of course, these names now are arbitrary. This could just be raised bed and other things. But now that we have a data model, we could, I think, easily do that. We just need to write the data pieces here, explanation part. And in terms of model stuff, we actually have some work done. I have some models here. I just have to import them into Godot. But for tomato, if we want to place tomato, I think we could do that. We have something. Let me see how I can reorganize this file. Layout, display. How do I get rid of this wireframe? should use more. Should use Blender a lot more. Not too familiar with the new interface. But then want to be able to okay, maybe turn that off. Oh, this now has changed. When you go into edit mode, then you could still select it. Okay, so regardless, here is a fully grown flowering tomato plant. We will have maybe a seedling at the beginning. So we should be able to plant this in a raised bed. Then after some time, it should go into the growing phase. And when you wait a bit longer, it should have the flowering phase. And after that, we will have some unripe tomato fruits. Scientifically, it's a fruit, but it's a vegetable. And then tomatoes will be riper. And of course, if you don't harvest them in time, and they will wither. And maybe I'll actually shrink these tomato pieces because they will just dry out. So I'm sure this will be really fun to do in Godot. We'll see. So let's plan ahead. So I could just pretend that I'm selecting the seedling for tomato when I say buy. Hmm. Should test this tree. I think when we had that long list, when this UI element was shorter, there were already too many items in the tree and they were cut off, I think. There was no scroll going on because this tree is trying to take as much space as possible, and when it can't, it is cut off. So let's actually try that. And then I kind of want to sign off here with the overall structure. So let's go into planting. Do more. Yeah, this should just be enough. Um, what? Didn't I save it? What's going on? Rotate. Oh, silly me, I'm still pulling the data from the hard-coded piece here. That is super helpful. Vegetables keys, and this should actually be this is the part that's actually interesting, because when we initialize the tree, we now have to make this function initializing the uh, correct section here, whether it's vegetables, herbs, or mush. This will most likely have some parameter. Let's see, so let's pretend it's all vegetables. This vegetables will be data, game data, and I think that's where I took the liberty to make this whole thing planting. This should actually have vegetables as a whole. Oh boy, vegetables. And then this is of course going to have its own. So I don't think we need this. No, that was wrong. This is it. Planting section will have vegetables, herbs, mushrooms. So for vegetables, we have kale. So data planting vegetables. So this is now going to game data planting. This should also be planting. And this is also going to be the section. Which section? Right now it's actually, let's write it this way, then later it will be replaced by the section. Then type then variable. Or do it this way. Always future proof it. And you should just go away. Game data planting. This is now going to section. Oops. Planting section will have keys, which is vegetables, and under vegetables we'll have those and they are essentially types. That's okay. We'll keep it vegetable as the different types: tomato, kale, potato, those things. That's fine. This is the part where we are in trouble, because that is also going to be accessed on this section. Is vegetables dot vegetable is kale, and under that we are accessing variants. Okay, I think this is now decoupled. Let's remove this dummy output here. Planting, there's that uppercase problem that is happening because I will either rename the planting JSON to an uppercase situation here, or do some kind of manipulation while I'm reading the text. Oh, Godot doesn't show JSON files in the file system. I think it's harmless thing to rename the file to okay. Now this is going to be planting potatoy things. Okay, this actually comes with its own scroll bar. I like that, as it should have. So now we are one step closer to this. This scroll bar is also a dummy scroll bar that I found in Fireworks. is not the final UI design. This will go through iterations, but it was helpful to set up the basics in terms of uh, types of planting. Under each type, what type of plant you want to grow, and for each type, what kind of variant you want to grow, and it's explained. It's very helpful. Okay. Now, of course, if I click any one of these, it's going to error out because there's no data, but in the final version there will be. I'm not going to do error checking. Similarly, we will be reading equipment data. That will have its own equipment JSON file. And ultimately, all those entries will be registered in the Google spreadsheet that I can export as JSON file, because it's easier to edit a spreadsheet than writing a long piece of data in that. Are working. Okay, let's try to add those bottom parts and call it a day. This dinner is a thing. I must eat at some point, so I decided to do all this is a vertical thing. So this is actually another vertical. I could edit under explanation as VBucks. And under this VBucks, we will have an HBucks. It's as if I need a grid. So as silly as it may sound, it's a very basic grid concept. We would need 2 columns, and here we will actually label button. Button will say buy. Okay. Label will say whether it will be visible or not depends on a lookup somewhere. Grow direction and begin both. I don't think this matters here. I think this is where we do the size flags, expanding both. Okay. I think this button will probably have its own fixed size. Let's see, 130 something. So it's 140, let's say. Okay. Of course, it's not going to work because it also has the expand that. When you remove that, it's actually 140, and this thing is expanding possible. Now, save this. So let's get this explanation. Custom constants, let's make this 12. So it looks a bit roomier. And this actually needs some padding too for... Now, we have HBox here. That probably should have zero separate. actually is by default 2 or something. When I set this checkbox on, it will explicitly make it 0. Right now you can actually see it's not 0. It has some, I think 6 pixels is the default. So when we do 0, it actually zeroes out the gap. So now the text for the explanation will actually snap here. So we need to account for that. We need 18 pixels-ish margin from the sides and maybe 12 pixel from top, although this actually looks like 6 pixels from bottom. Anyway, this label will probably have its own top and bottom margin, so we'll do 6 from top, bottom, and from the right too, because this also has to align. So maybe 18 pixels from the left. We actually need a margin container for putting all this explanation. Now this is actually a vertical thing. So we need all this in the vertical space, but it says if this should be wrapped by the margin container. Can we get away with the margins here? We can't, because this is inside an HBox container. Its margins will be controlled by that. So we have to update our reference for sure. Margin container. You need to be under the tree. This thing should be here. You should have 6 here, 6 here, 12 here, 6 here. You should have expand. And we have to update the paths, because all this is now garbage. So we need to put this here. Run. Tomato. This should also be invisible. We'll tackle that. Like when there's nothing selected, there should be some kind of introductory text here. Please make a selection of. That's that. And now it's actually off the edge here, some margin. And when we do the pretty font, everything will look much better. Yeah, there's always something else to do, isn't there? While I was looking here, I thought of doing something. Okay, now I remember. This, initially we were saying this should be in its own function, and all this is its own function. So we no longer have this silliness expanding in. So this is now expand and collapse. It's a proper indentation. The selection is the problem here. The selection is now here. Okay, maybe we'll pass that selection into here. Selected item. Maybe we do it this way. Okay. So let's actually have a proper name. And you don't do this. All this is now going in. What did you say? Explain yourself. that also needs its own to item will be passed by reference. Of course, we could keep this as a root variable that we update so we don't pass it, but they just visit remotely instead of reference passed. We will see. Let's do incremental changes. This shit works. Everything works just fine. And can we do this better? If selected item get children is null, you do this. Else, yeah, it's simple enough. It's not mess with it. It's easier to read. Let's not do the short kind of shorthand writing of this. I'm actually going to make this that is not an onReady variable because it's going to be built once there is a selection. So let's write the onReady variables at the top. It should also work without problem. Here it is. Works like a charm. I'm gonna grab some water and check the dinner station. Hopefully I'll be able to continue until dinner time, but let's check first. Kind of back, I have to order food. That way I can continue. Stream work. Something. I'll just pull the pretty design up here. Nicer to look than Godot document. there. Okay, they are confirming the order. I think true. We can now focus back. Need more time, but I'll wait. They have work to do. So right now we have basic implementation of planting menu. So we have the equipment and planting menu. That's fine. We have some basic font is the buy button. It said we are going to apply preview stuff. That's going to be hard for me because it's not something I have practiced before. All this other UI work and data pulling, I'm familiar with it. When it comes to UI problems, I'm actually really good at it. That is actually the main reason why I switched to system and Unity just driving me. So so easy to do skinning and but the real game stuff, placing game objects in the world, that's going to be interesting. So the basic understanding is that when the mouse is going over the game world, use raycasting. So if the mouse position is here, 100 pixels in direction, the pixels in the right direction, the top left is 0. Then let's just show it here in the fireworks. Somewhere here in the game world, if in the 3D game world, let's say our origin point is here. This is the 0, 0, and 0 in all directions. X, Y, and Z. So when there's a raised bed here, it's in the X direction this way, sort of like 50 in the X direction, and maybe minus 10 in the Y direction, and in the Z direction, it's 0. But in a 2D screen coordinate system, when I point here, that is going to be, just pretend it's actually in the game. It is like 575 to 300. So we have to take the mouse coordinate values 550 or 575, 300, and we have to convert it into game the 3D world area. And only then we can say, well, position the object in following X, Y, Z, and then it'll just come here. That's the that's the main point. Now, if you do that, then you have different concerns. In which direction the object will be. Put this raised bed. Are you kind of holding its this corner, or when you click it, does it actually place it in this direction? Uh, those choices will be, I guess, game design choices. Or should you always have the mouse sort of in the center of the model? And of course, when you place the model, does it overlap with another area? That sort of thing. But right now, let's pretend we could put any object anywhere we want, so they can beside each other. That's those cases. So right now, maybe as a basic plan, because I'm thinking by the time I have a basic understanding of, like, I have a basic understanding of how this works, but the basic implementation of it's likely the food will arrive and we'll conclude the stream. I think I'm leaving this area somewhat a somewhat healthy situation. Yeah, weird. Start with some other. Now we have in the game script itself, we had this basic camera movement. I put some of this in stuff. This camera script, zoom camera, we actually looked into this to cancel the zooming behavior when we're doing the scroll up and down. Preview, three component. Right now, interacting with the component using the scroll, mouse scroll is interfering with game zoom. And I decided to leave this out because there will most likely more things to take care of here, other interfaces here. But we could essentially use this star mouse position to game world conversion. Since where I put that right now kind of doesn't matter, I'll just write it here. Shorter file. So when we have the event, the input event, we could actually separate this. Event is input mouse. You can only print this out, otherwise it actually we were doing this for the mouse button because we tried to separate it from the mouse motion. Mouse motion happens fires too. But right now we are actually interested. This is it. A lot of balls here. And this guy in conjunction with input event with modifiers, one of these guys was mouse position relative to the previous position at plus frame. Not so because it's inheriting from here, we should be some of the from here. What can we get? Die cycle. This is what I was saying. The 2D coordinate. Somewhere here it's going to be. If I'm going this way, it's going to have similar values. I'm kind of going diagonal. Around 200, around. Now we have to convert this 2D values into the game world. So if this, the bottom of this tree is 0, 0, 0, if I'm here, it should say 2 units in the and 0, 0, Y and Z. when I come here, it should say 2 in the x, -1 in y, 0 in z. I'm assuming this tree was the center of the level. Sample going to 3. Leave that 800. So go back into the script and position. So this is where we do that raycasting. I may have to actually read some book. Familiar with the concept? I'm not quite familiar how to do. There's something called raycast. We use the normal raycast, which is 3D. I think all these will be labeled as 3D. Godot 4. We have the 2D version of it, but we are raycast. There is no. There is just you. I believe instead of creating a new raycast, we could keep a node. But let's pretend we have a raycast node. And I'm interested in seeing the methods here. Well, this list is always, you read the document. Cast 2. Used to query the 3D space in order. And I think there was something about the camera dot world projection. Cast 2. Race destination related to actually. Closest object. This is somewhat what we need, but not quite. We are not interested in closest object. That is going to be needed, but not at this. We're interested is the world space versus the like what is seen in the viewport versus what exists in the world field core. I think that is camp. Search like the project position. This is screen point. I think I have a screen point. It turns the 3D point in world space that maps to the given coordinate. Have the viewport rectangle away from the camera. Now, and but then let's ask ourselves this question. When I'm pointing here, because I'm able to see this floor piece here, this 3D world, it makes sense to place an object here because there's nothing that is interfering with my line of sight. Let's say, as the player or the viewer, I am the camera because I'm able to see this area. It makes sense that I put my object. But if there was an obstacle, and I'm still pointing in this area. The same x and y in the 3D coordinate system, same viewport, nothing has changed. Well, now an object, a 3D object, is getting in my way. So then instead of putting my raised bed in this area, I'm basically interacting with, like, imagine like this building is naturally, when I click here, I'm actually interacting with the roof, but not the ground piece behind this. It's hidden in the perspective. So, and I think we kind of intermingle raycast with this world. Let's see. Let's first do this and let's see what it gets. Project. You write this. Keep it there. Now, by the way, I have a camera scene which has a camera object. So I should actually access the game is here. The game has a camera scene, so I'm able to access inside the camera. Inside, give it a see. I try. Okay, let's do it right. I try to write this here because it's simple, but it's involving camera. I may as well write in script because it's supposed. I may actually expose this placement method so that it's accessed from outside. But right now, I'm that this is always trying to place something scene. A world projection. Okay. So I can easily get rid of this function later. See, we'll try it here. Event is always my. Yeah, let's do this too because sometimes there will be button click events. So now this is a camera itself under the pivot. I'm going to screen point, and this is where we're getting that event position. Screen point. Something I have no clue about Z depth. I think this is about that how deep that projection goes. Is on a plane that is a given Z depth distance seen away from. Yeah, this is, I think, that how far should you project? Do you hit that building or do you go as far as, say, it's float? Um, where I don't really know practical stuff. When you say 10, like 10 units, and because it's in the 3D coordinate system, is it 10 as it's like if this was 2D, the Pythagorean theorem, the hypotenuse, but in the 3D world, it's the what was it, the square cube of thing. Let's just stick with the number and see. and just that. This gives you a vector. Why not? Some vector 3. So this tree is 0, 0, 0. As I'm approaching here, bottom of this is, well, at least I'm getting somewhat. It's 0 in the x here. I'm gonna go down, using the y value. But then x values are also. So I should go left here. This is almost 0. Let me remove this panel here, because I was fussing with the camera movements, and I might have left it in an experimental with the target seeking somewhere equipment. Let's zoom out. Like right here, it's 0.2. Okay, I'm going to pick myself a spot. The edge of this, the pointy bit here in this tree, first sort of corner here, it's always minus 0.27, 3.2, minus 3, somewhere else, consistent. When I zoomed in, this is where I. But this is like from the bottom of the wheel of this wheelbarrow. I'm going, I think, 6 squares left. And of course, it's now done. I don't know why it helps with something. Okay, so this is where we have the 0 values. When I zoom out, it's here, so that's actually reassuring, because zooming out shouldn't have changed the coordinates more or less. I think I know what's happening. I think my camera is 8 units in the Z direction, and camera all this is. Yeah, this is the part I'm going to struggle the most, which is the whole essence of the game, placing stuff on the screen. Yeah, I might have to watch some tutorials and apply that wisdom here in my game world, because there's a certain point beyond which experimenting and this will be very counterproductive. Normally do that to just through, but I don't think my basic understanding will easily translate into no. This actually look promising. This might also be sounds. It's as if I should have used this one. Only part is that it doesn't take Z depth. Also something. Why did this matter? 100. Here's that. It's actually what happens when it's 1. See, this value here. See, this is completely different. This used to be somewhat 0. We had the -8 in it. It's all different because this Z depth is. Let's do that other project. I believe it was called. Check the food station too. Nothing is happening. People are hungry. It's fair for. This is actually promising here because if this is 0 and you move here 1 unit, 1 more unit, that's 2 units of restriction. Okay? This part doesn't. Because when I was here, the x and y kind of made sense. The y is without the minus sign, it's almost double the x value. When we are here, I was expecting at least one of them would change because this was like 2 to 1 restriction. Come here, the whole other deal. Ah. You try. Do. It's always fixed. Sense because this is the vector. The normal vector. And I bet if I calculated the angle with these angles, the length, well, let's just say the vector that's x, y value, given these coordinates, and this rotation values, I bet you I would actually reach this result. That this number would always be between 0 and 1. It's 1. That it's actually a normalized. Because my view angle is always looking at this all of a sudden. The keyboard action. Anyway, yeah, as I said, I think I'm going to read on this and watch tutorials. There are a lot of people out there who have done this. This was a facing stuff. So this actually might be maybe tomorrow morning's topic. If I stream, maybe I'll actually learn stuff. Maybe I'll also learn it during the stream too. I don't know. But I know what I'm going to do. Here I could, but if I have the time, I'd rather learn what's more useful than tutorial. So I think that's it for today. There's a lot more to do, but it's just, a bit helps. So we'll see. Wish you good night. See you in the next one.